Welcome to CWM Talk. Today we'll be talking to Reverend Dr. Sindiso Jele, Mission Secretary for Social Justice. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
So I'm going to ask you about your ties to the Council for World Mission. When was the beginnings of your relationship with CWM?
I started my genuine relationship with CWM when I attended CWM-funded youth program that was in Madagascar in 1999. And then 2015, I was invited to facilitate the Bible studies that was in Mozambique. And then 2016, I also facilitated the Bible studies, both that was the regional roundtable in Africa. In the 2016 one, I was to start or assume duty as the Mission Secretary for Africa. That was in April 2016. And then from then, my career with CWM started.
So your relationship with CWM spans over 2 decades.
It does. If we are to include my youth times, yes, it does.
Great. So can you describe how your portfolio has changed or evolved?
My portfolio has evolved on 2 fronts. The first one is a geographical one. It has evolved from being a regional portfolio where in terms of content, in terms of direction and participation and energy was within Africa. But then now geographically it's going globally, or it has gone globally, where I have to look into the global issues and the global space. The second, it has evolved in terms of content. Content now, it is thematically specific, where I have to look at the issues of social justice, doing mission from the margins. Okay. That is how it has. So it is in 2 fronts. Right.
What are the main objectives of the social justice program, and what are your expectations?
The main objectives is how to do mission within the margins. Now, doing mission in the margins, also I always add and say with the margins, because normally the practice unconsciously has been that we do mission for the margins. In other words, we dictate the pace and the agenda. But now, in terms of social justice, the margins must also define what the mission is. And also, we need also to have the direction. Where do we go from the missions? Do we go to the center? If we go to the center, that is where normally the agenda is lost. Yes.
Okay. And how were your previous experiences, whether it's your previous portfolio of CWM and even before CWM, benefit your leadership of social justice?
Right. I believe in organic leadership, a leadership that happens naturally. And I believe in leadership where you also give birth to the new leaders. So I was born during the liberation wars to regain independence. And that experience has informed my missiological thinking. So what it means is that I now know how it is to be poor, how it is to be hungry, how it is to be exploited. So now as I lead the people, these things naturally follows and organically. And the people enjoy that because it is not a leadership from the library or learned somewhere else. It's not a learned one, but it's the one that grows out of the experience into that. So that helps in dealing with issues of social justice. I can tell the pain of somebody who is raped. I can tell the pain of somebody who is being exploited, even in a workplace. So that helps that experience. And I've worked in different countries. I've worked in Zimbabwe. I've worked in Botswana. I've worked in South Africa. I've worked with the whites. I've worked with the blacks. I've worked with people, different cultures and spiritualities. So I can locate social justice within a race, a culture, and a spirituality.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sindiso. So how can the member churches work together to achieve the objectives that you set out for social justice?
Remember, the member churches are already working together. It is only at the boardroom level where we find the cracks. If we can cascade that down, that problem, the churches will be able to react to the problem And then through the reaction cycle, the whole thing, it is it. That is the one. Secondly, listen to the voices of the mass. I'm using a political term to say the mass, and I don't know what the churches will say congregation, but from the mass. Yes. And then if we do that, the member churches, they will feel part of CWM. As long as we don't give to them, but get from them, then they will participate in all the programs.
And how about our ecumenical partners? How can they work with us and vice versa to achieve the objectives?
Right. When we talk about ecumenical partners and CWM, we are pushing for transformative ecumenism. Now, we have worked with other ecumenical partners, like in the previous program on gender-based violence, like the Council for the World, or us as the Council of World Mission, World Council of Churches, Lutheran World Federation, All Africa Council of Churches, and other national council of churches, which means that we have already tested the possibility of that. But we need to maintain and avoid a situation of what keeps us together. We will always be different. But let us look at what we can do together than what keeps us together. Because if we look at what keeps us together, we will be so much focused on the dogmatic issues. But CWM is about mission, not the dogmatics. So as CWM was saying, finding partners, what can we do together than what keeps us together?
Okay. What are some of the upcoming events lined up for social justice in 2023?
We have got a number of them. Maybe I would look firstly on those that excites the spirit of social justice. We have the first that will be coming in is gender justice and spirituality, where we are to say, you know, what is the spiritual hindrance in achieving gender justice? Or what is the spiritual strength that we can exploit for social justice? And now we are saying in that situation, let us not appreciate the 16 days of activism as initiated by United Nations, of which we have already baptized it. But what is the church saying into the whole thing? And we are saying as a church, let us speak about positive masculinity. If we can transform man and have him positive, then our belief in social justice is that the gender justice objectives will be achieved. The second one is on the racism. Racism has rocked the world in a very different ways. But we are saying that let us look at racism and locate it within the social justice. There is one thing sometimes where we normally make a mistake. We normally believe that if we achieve the relationship between blacks and white, we will have achieved the objectives of racism. That is a serious mistake. A mistake that assumes that we in the world we have got only two races. We have more races than that. So then in this approach, in these two, let us consult all the member churches which are of many races rather than only black and white. We have got many races. Yeah. So then if we have that collective consultation, we will be able to say, how does different races other than black and white deal with the issues of racial discrimination? How do they deal with the gender issues? We also have the issue of the youth. I will be expected maybe to deal with the youth in Europe, how they deal with racism, youth in Africa, how they deal with racism. But why don't we bring them together, give them space to deal with the realities? And then, of course, the other events lined up will be the normal participation in the 16 days of activism and the standard one, the MMF, Member Missions Forum.
Okay. Finally, in closing, we're in January, so what are your New Year's greetings to the member churches and the ecumenical partners?
As we get into 2023, I pray and invite us to work towards peace, justice, and transformation. And those are my wishes to the member churches. Thank you.
Thank you, Sindiso. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you again for the next CWM talk. Goodbye.